So in any event, these are 4 ways that fracking contaminates our water. From the well, from the wastewater, from the fracking fluid, from the withdrawals from our rivers, lakes, and streams. Then there's the air pollution. Those waste pits, all of the chemicals in that wastewater, there's a lot of volatile organic compounds that come into the air. Then you've got all of the industrial apparatus, the compressor stations, the diesel trucks, the processing plants, the pipelines, all of this stuff leaks into the air. Question, what has worse smog-forming air pollution? Western Wyoming or Los Angeles? There are times of the year in the winter that western Wyoming, because of the concentration of oil and gas operations, has greater smog-forming air pollution than LA. One gas well, according to the New York State analysis, produces 140,000 pounds of smog-forming pollution in its first year of operation. And this, by the way, is the state of New York, where Governor Cuomo seems to be kind of gung-ho on moving forward with fracking, so not exactly people who would be pushing, to try to make fracking look bad. That was their preliminary environmental assessment. So that's air pollution. Well, when you think about all those industrial pieces of equipment that I talked about, the compressor stations, the roads to get to the sites, the well pad itself, all of the industrial equipment and so forth, the Nature Conservancy has estimated that in the Marcellus Shale region, which is the huge shale block that runs from upstate New York down through 2/3 of Pennsylvania and so forth and so on, it's going to take approximately 8.8 acres of land per well pad site that are going to be cleared because of all of that stuff going on. So you're talking about rolling farmland and communities and forests turned into industrial zones. And this is where I wish I had my PowerPoint to show you the picture of what a fracking site looks like. Believe me, it's not exactly our natural heritage at its best practices.
But if your name is on the email list, you'll get a copy of the PowerPoint.
I'm actually going to, we'll talk about it. Thank you. That's a good point. Let me go next to people getting sick, because naturally, as you might imagine, all of this air pollution, all of this water pollution, there are examples, dozens and dozens of examples of people across the country living near these well pad sites getting sick. I was out in Butler County in western Pennsylvania talking to a woman, Janet McIntyre. I could see the well pad site just a couple thousand feet from her property. When they started fracking in that operation, she and her husband got sick from drinking their own well water. Within 24 hours of them starting to vomit, have headaches, have dizziness and nausea, their water coming out of their tap started turning black and frothy. The dog accidentally drank it and died 2 days later. The DEP then came to test their well and insisted that there was no evidence that there was chemical contamination. This is what people on the front lines of fracking are up against every day. Or take Pam Judy, a woman in central Pennsylvania who we talked with, who told local officials that after a compressor station and all the air pollution coming from that compressor station was 780 feet from her house, that her son, at one point, from being outside near the compressor station, had to be rushed to the hospital because of the air pollution from the compressor station. Again, we hear stories like this again and again and again. And it's not just anecdotes. University of Colorado School of Public Health did a study of Garfield County and showed that people living within a half mile of gas operations had an increased risk of long-term health problems, including cancer. So the evidence is mounting about the scale and scope of health problems for people living right where the fracking is happening. Energy and global warming, Ed's going to talk mostly about that, but I do want to just emphasize that there are huge methane emissions that come out of gas drilling operations, and methane is an incredibly potent global warming pollutant. So anyone who tells you that natural gas is the solution to coal, Ed's going to talk more about that, but we completely reject that argument. Scientists have shown recently that at best, the total methane emissions from gas operations may rival, and in fact could even exceed, the global warming impacts of coal. So not necessarily worse than coal, but certainly not the clear, better alternative to coal, not the reason that we should be tolerating all of these local impacts. Moreover, one of the biggest obstacles to siting wind and solar has been cheap natural gas in the marketplace. So that's another way that it's pushing our economy and our energy policy in the wrong direction, to have this huge oversupply of gas that's come as the result of fracking. Those are some of the different harms. You would think that with all of these problems related to air, related to water, related to health, related to our landscapes, and so forth and so on, that we would have some comprehensive national regulatory scheme for this kind of thing. But in fact, the industry has earned exemptions from the Clean Water Act, the Safe Drinking Water Act, the Clean Air Act, and as I said, our nation's hazardous waste law, as well as some other national environmental laws. Key provisions of those laws: fracking is exempt for the most part. Ed pointed out that when industry uses diesel, they have to get a permit from EPA. But if they don't use diesel, which is a lot of the time, no permit from EPA under the Safe Drinking Water Act. They just go right ahead. And of course, the states, unfortunately, in states where this has been happening, are either ill-equipped or politically unwilling to regulate the industry or to crack down on it. In Pennsylvania, our state affiliate, Penn Environment, found more than 3,000 violations of the already fairly weak environmental laws in Pennsylvania by oil and gas drilling operations. Again, the report is called Risky Business. It's on Penn Environment's website. I can get it to you. So the regulatory regime is weak. The problems surrounding fracking, in our view, are inherently destructive, not the kind of thing you could adequately regulate in the first place, and happening at thousands of sites across the country, making it even harder to enforce any regulatory scheme that you might want to have. Moreover, why on earth do we want to encourage more oil and gas drilling when we should be moving towards clean energy? So for all of these reasons, Environment America and our affiliate here in Massachusetts, Environment Massachusetts, have concluded that the best thing we can do is to stop fracking before it starts anywhere we can. All across the country, from Illinois to Colorado to California to here in Massachusetts, we are working to stop this dirty drilling anywhere we can. And then obviously in places like Pennsylvania, where the drilling is already happening, or in Colorado, or in Texas, yeah, we're working with communities to get the best defenses that they can. And if that means incremental regulatory measures, great. And if that means local bans, that's great. A lot of people on the conservative right wing say that they're in favor of local control, except when that turns out to conflict with the oil and gas industry. So in Colorado, we've had several communities vote to ban or put a moratorium on oil and gas drilling, and then we have the governor of Colorado threatening to sue his own communities over those bans. So people who say they're in favor of local control, very odd. Let me turn to Massachusetts now, very quickly, and what it is that we want to be able to do here. In December, there was an announcement that there was a discovery of a shale deposit, the Hartford Shale, that runs through part of the Pioneer Valley and into Connecticut, creating for the first time the very real possibility that fracking could actually come here to Massachusetts. I'm not a geologist, I don't know, and I'm not an economist, so I can't tell you exactly how many wells are going to be drilled and exactly when. There are people who are saying it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen very soon, etc. But you know what? In 2003, the people of rural Pennsylvania didn't know it was going to hit them either. And instead, thousands of landmen went knocking on doors, signing up lease contracts, and before they knew what happened, the drilling rigs were out there. So my view is, let's get this behind us, let's ban fracking before it starts happening, before those landmen go to start knocking on doors in the Pioneer Valley. The second problem is that even if there never is any fracking here in Massachusetts, if fracking starts up next door in New York, where there is a huge, epic battle raging over this dirty drilling, where's the wastewater going to go? In Pennsylvania alone, in a 3-year period, the drillers produced 1.3 billion gallons of this toxic-laden wastewater. For reasons that some say is related to geography, some say is related to regulatory purposes, they have been exporting a lot of that wastewater to Ohio, to West Virginia, some even to New Jersey. We believe, for a whole set of similar reasons, that that is what will happen in New York. New York does not have a whole system set up of deep well injection. New York's plan for Governor Cuomo to move forward with fracking has an incredibly flawed and inadequate plan of how they're going to deal with the volume of wastewater if they start fracking there. So that's the other reason why Vermont, which also doesn't have very much shale gas, moved in 2011 to ban fracking. Ban fracking and ban the processing of fracking wastewater. In New Jersey, again, another state with not a lot of shale gas, the legislature voted, our affiliate Environment New Jersey ran a campaign there to get the legislature to vote overwhelmingly to ban fracking wastewater after DuPont, it was discovered, had imported fracking wastewater and was processing it on a plant on the Delaware River. Governor Christie sadly vetoed that bill in New Jersey, but the point is that all of the states around New York are at risk, and that includes us. So that's why Environment Massachusetts here is supporting and worked with Representatives Kokot from Western Massachusetts, Representative Provost here in Somerville to introduce H788 to ban fracking and its wastewater. And as I indicated, Representative Smizek, we thank you for your leadership in sponsoring that bill. There are 14 co-sponsors overall. What I want to do is I want to make sure that we have time to talk about action we can take to support this bill. We have, as a first starting action, a petition that I can circulate around in support of the ban on fracking that I can just get going, but I want to stop here and make sure we give Ed plenty of time for his comments, and then once we do that and have question and answer, we can, at the end, talk about upcoming steps to take action on this issue.